Okay. Thank you, everybody. I'll do a very quick intro, because most of you have actually been here from before. I know some of you have just changed seats just to confuse me. But so I'm Izzy Carlisle. I'm Director of Operations at Batch, and we've got Janet Ravenscross, Head of Marketing, Martin Beach, who you will certainly know by name, if not by sight before, who's our Senior Support, and then Adam Hewson is our guest, man from the bookshop, owner of Hewson and She. So, what did I just say? Owner of Hewson. Adam Hewson, owner of Q and She. Yeah. So this second session now is around, I call it BatchLine to the max. And the whole purpose really is not to give detailed instruction about how to do things, but to give you an essence of all the things that perhaps you haven't seen before. Forgive us if some of these things are things that you're already using. Hopefully some of it will be new to you, and it will just give you a sense of what there is to offer. And I think that's it. Over to you. What I'll do is there'll be 10 minutes at the end of questioning, but actually it's quite a small group, so do ask questions as we go through. If you've got anything very store specific, what I'd ask is that you wait until we're outside, and just so that we can keep the conversation moving. Over to you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, we really just want to make sure that you're getting the best use of the service for your sub. So making sure you're on the most recent version, and that you've been thinking, well, I wonder what that button does. So hopefully today you'll find out what that button does. So starting from the beginning, finding books.
Yeah, so obviously we've got the search option. What this screen is about is really about the fact that we can show promotions from gardeners, as well as all the other stuff. I'm presuming everybody's acquainted with it, but we've got what gardeners have currently got in stock. The green promo end and discount is that it's in a promotion, and that's the discount you get. You've got your standard discount down there as well. And also we've got a firm sale option, which we'll see in the next slide.
Yeah, I think it's coming up. Well, you've got the biblio.
Yeah, bibliographic, that's just to tell you that we've still got Biblio in there. That's coming from Bibliographic Data Services. So if you're in that situation with a customer where you sort of, what is it? You've got Biblio, which is just by clicking on the CD icon at the top of the screen.
Can you go back one?
Yeah.
Something that was...
We're just going to show you that on the next screen you've got the rights. You might want to see that one.
Yeah, sorry.
Actually, you've got the rights restricted and the promotion.
Yeah. So this is just a bit more on the red up there is rights restriction, which was a real problem for us when we first started with BatchLine over BatchLine, because we had no way of telling you whether something was rights restricted. So that red field there, RR, just means it's rights restricted, so just be careful. There is a setting, I'm not sure anybody's here from Ireland, but you can say where your country is. So if you're in Ireland, of course, rights restricted in the UK doesn't apply to you in Ireland, and vice versa. So it is possible to swap where you actually are.
It just means you're not buying airport editions.
Yeah.
Or ordering airport editions and think, why didn't that book come?
Yeah, that's a big problem with rights restricted. It's the old airports, isn't it? Because in Ireland you can get these airport editions, but of course
Waterstones get them too. Found them in
the
road from me in Waterstones, they get them. I have reported them, but nothing else.
And again at the bottom we've got promotional stuff there telling you the titles in the promotion.
Yeah.
So right, we do the first one again, because there was the stuff on the far right. I don't think we talked about all the Edelweiss stuff.
Oh, Edelweiss, yeah. I don't know if everybody's aware of Edelweiss. I didn't really include that.
Keep going.
Yeah, if you go back to the first one.
One more. Yeah. So all this stuff here, stop, order, sold. This is what other independent booksellers are doing, and so 43% of booksellers have agents on in stock right now. 62 have sold it. I don't know what the period that is for sales, but 62% have sold it. So if you're looking at
generally in the last month.
In the last month. So if you're looking at, I don't know, Far From the Madding Crowd, and you're thinking, oh, what's the best edition? I don't really care. The customer isn't worried too much about play. You can see most booksellers have this version, and you can have a look at that version and say, that's the one I want to pick. So you're not accidentally picking one that nobody has because it's in Spanish or something like that. So, seeing those gives an indication that it's probably ones that your colleagues have helped.
That information as well is available across the board. So the other biggie is reorder from sales, where generally you'd be able to rattle through reorder from sales saying yeah, no, yeah, no. But then if you're really stuck, like you say,
Yeah.
you can look at it. You can look at Edelweiss and go, oh, maybe we should have a copy of that, or maybe we shouldn't have a copy.
Should I go forward here?
Yeah.
So the next biggie was
What
the
was-
direct ordering.
Oh, direct ordering, yeah. So this is a big one since we left Bertram's, the ability to order direct from publishers. So that has been a big take up on that.
This gives you more options.
Is it? Well, yeah. I mean, what gives you a lot more options than you
The
ever had
default is
before.
gardeners, we should point out, boys.
Well, actually, the default can be anybody you like. So if you wanted to default to Penguin,
Send
you
everyone
could.
to Penguin.
However,
Don't.
maybe not a good idea. But while they're, we could just say,
Yeah. We don't be too nice to that, do we? Estimated cost, Martin, you were talking about earlier.
oh yes, on this screen, the thing that we've added here is estimated cost. So you've got the number of lines, number of books, you've got the value, which is RRP, but also you've got the estimated cost of that order. Now that's based on the fact that in every supplier you can put a default discount. So you can say, right, it's Penguin, I always get 48%. So if it's a Penguin order, it just allocates or takes off 48%. It's just a, well, I don't know. But the whole point of it is it does give you a heads up before ordering as to what the value of that order might cost.
It's just been waving at me. So this is really about the integration between BatchLine and batch payments and returns. So if you're using batch payments, which you really all should be, there's no reason not to, it's free and it's fab, you can see your invoices so you know what you're going to be spending for the goods arrive. Stock management.
Yeah, I think we'll just nip through that.
Nip
one.
through.
So this is reorder from sales, and as it says, I think it's true to say it's a fairly easy yes/no process. So you're going through it saying, yeah, I want one of them, don't want one of that, bang, done. And in general terms, you can look at each title, and most of you will be saying, right, I know exactly what that is, I want to order it. But there is further information about things like what's it sold, the Edelweiss stuff's there, when was the last delivery, what your discount at Gardeners is, have Gardeners got it in stock, etc., etc. So there's quite a lot there to help you decide what you should be reordering. And we've also got Biblio, so if you're really stuck, what is this book, you can get Biblio.
And you're saying, Martin, that tends to be something that shops and Adam's probably going to chip in. You do it at the end of the day, is that right?
I wouldn't say do it
Throughout
You do it throughout the day, so you keep it on top of it.
If you keep doing it, you think, oh, I'm not going to have time. Or what the worst thing you can possibly do is 5 minutes before you've got to send the order and you don't think about it. Because that's really bad ordering. You really should. Ordering's one of the fun parts of the job. So spend time, think about it carefully, look at it leisurely. Don't think, I've got to get it out so I can get it there now before the deadline, because then you're going to make mistakes and under-ordering and over-ordering. So no, do it throughout the day, at your leisure, and have fun with it.
This is a quick look at the details, order details. So here's a couple of things being added, which I think are fairly useful. Is the item in stock? So why would you be ordering something if you've got 5 in stock, for instance? And the other is it on return? Is the book on if it's on a return, why would you be ordering it? It's 2 things that were just missing before that are there now that just help you at the point where you go, I'm going to order this.
Can I just check, is it shown as being on a return as soon as it's been put in a return basket? It's like not when the return's been processed, it's like...
No, it's on a return note as such, so it could be an open return that's not gone anywhere,
okay.
but you have slapped it
You've
on
put
the
it into a return basket? Perfect.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's just a flag to say that book is on a return.
Perfect,
somewhere.
thank you.
I wasn't sure if something
What's this?
It's just to say that, again, it's about integration, that BatchLine links in with batch returns.
Yes, this is standard, the return screen that we all are probably familiar with.
Biggie.
Oh right, so this is a big one that was put out in 465. And this is all about being able to record cost price. And that means you can, in a way, get a more accurate view of your margin. So the way it works is if you're on batch payments and picking up, what have we done? Yeah, go on. Yeah. Right, the way it works is it's threefold. The first is on the stock record there is now a cost price field, and there's nothing stopping it from going in and actually putting that cost price in. But of course that would take you forever and a day if you've got an awful lot of titles. So if you move on to the next one.
The next one's goods in, yeah.
Yeah. If you're on the batch payments system, then when you pick up an invoice, we actually take the cost price off the invoice. So it is the deadly accurate cost price that goes into the against the stock record. If you haven't got an invoice, so in other words, you haven't put anything in manually, you haven't got an invoice, then we revert back to that default discount. So we say, okay, your average is 35% with Penguin. and if it's different, you can always manually edit it. And the whole point of this is that either on a daily basis, a monthly basis, or whatever, you can work out your margin. It'll tell you, you paid this much for these books, and this is what you took. So it's quite a big thing for us. I think it was something that we've been asked for at Bertram's, and we were asked for it for years, and we've finally done it. If you just go back to that.
Scanning.
Yeah, scan goods in. On scan goods in we're trying to adopt as the main method of goods in. And two things we've added into it are importing an invoice. So although you can still process an invoice now, that process method, what we think we're going to sort of go with in the long run is import invoice lines. So you just pull in the invoice and it's as though you've scanned it, so you can edit the lines, etc. One of the problems with process invoice, if there was a mismatch, it'd just say no idea what this lot is. Now at least you've got the option of saying it's a no PO and just put it in anyway. We've also got import purchase order. That's a bit off the wall, but it is a case of I've got a purchase order that contains all these books, I just need to get them into stock. In that way, you can use a purchase order. It's sort of, as I say, it's a bit off the wall, but there are certain circumstances where that sort of fits.
You used to be able to just set up a purchase order.
Yeah, there is the goods in by purchase order method that's still there, but the problem with that was it was all over the place, to be honest with you.
It's difficult if you get multiple purchase orders.
This is really where you got a pile of books, you think, how am I going to deal with those? Create a purchase order, send the purchase order to nowhere, in other words, a printer, and then say, it's all here.
When this happened, this was brilliant. We really felt that way. So we'd get our box, arguably our Penguin box at 35% discount. We'd literally just count the books and just think, do a little sense check, are these the books that we would have ordered? And if you get something insane, that's the mismatch that Mark was talking about. You count the books, you see there's 35 books in there. You press first you collect the invoices, not from this screen. You collect the invoices first. You pick the appropriate scan goods in button. Then you can find the invoice number. Okay? If you don't have the invoice in the paperwork, because it's Hachette, you can find that invoice number through Batch. There is, I think it's a development later that you'll be able to put that number into, but that's a future development. But you can find the invoice number. Once you find it, it brings the invoice up in front of you so you can see it. If there's an order for it, it comes out just ordinary colour. If there isn't an order for a particular book, the line's in red. And you have to make a decision, why did we get that book? Now, it could be a changed ISBN, or it could be a new title that you haven't got, you didn't put on the system before it came in. And then you can say, great, you can see up at the top it says 35 items, and it'll tell you your cost price and your price. And you can actually check that with your invoice. So does the invoice say the same value on it? And you don't necessarily have to check every single book to do that. If, this book's damaged, You just go down, click that line, delete it, press the little damaged button and scan it, and then it'll create your damaged book for you and sends it off to the damaged bit of returns.
Yeah. So the also one other option, if any of you got the old Coamtax scanner, if you're sort of short of space, then you can use the Coamtax scanner to go and scan somewhere else off the shop floor, bring the scanner to the PC, import, and you can import that as a goods in session.
That's why he's
Oh, yes, auto-categorization. I don't know how many... I think the pickup of this has been pretty good, and the people that have used it really like it.
Brilliant.
So the whole point of this is, in BatchLine stroke BatchLine, yes, if you created a new title, like a stock order or a customer order, it's going to ask you what categories you want to put this in. And it becomes so repetitious and tedious that certainly with customer orders, I think most shops say, I'm not going to bother. So straight away, by doing this auto-categorization, instead of it saying what categories you want to put it in, it automatically puts it into that category. And of course with BatchLine, our categories are your categories, so they're basically shelf headings. They're not bit codes or thema codes. So what we're doing is relating thema codes to your own categories. And that really, not only is it just with straightforward stock and customer ordering, but there's some sort of advanced things you can do whereby you can import an order from a rep, say, the big problem of how do you deal with a rep order. So if you get the rep to send you a CSV of what that order is, import it in, you've got your auto-categorization done.
You just need item and quantity.
Yeah, and it automatically categorizes. So the amount of time that can save.
Hours.
So, yeah,
not minutes, hours.
And if you followed that process through, it also means that conundrum of, have we got that on order or not?
Yeah.
You have got it on order because you've just pushed it through. The rep order is always that. So.
It's easy. They can explain how you do these. You have the big categories down here, the thema categories down here, and you select which one suits you. Now actually I wouldn't have done it this way in this case. For fiction, I would have just done F. I wouldn't have put all those categories in, which means all fiction will be fiction, unless, in this case it's FF, which will be crime. So it looks at the exceptions, and if the exceptions are there, that will go into crime. Everything else will go into fiction. There are hundreds and thousands of thema categories, but to be fair, you probably use one for health. You'd only do H, whatever it is, and if it happens to be a medical book, you'd probably put that into health as well. And so most of these things, you just say everything that's you, computing and information technology. I'm just going to put that in my shop would be the reference section.
Yeah.
So whatever reference would just get, and you just put the letter U in there. So in this case, that's science fiction. That's 3 different types of science fiction, which is probably science fiction, fantasy, and not sure what the third one would be. The X is graphic novels. So that's what's happening here. So, but those are all here. You don't need a degree in thema to work out how they work.
Why it's WB is, of course, Delia. It's cookery, for those that know me.
The thing I struggle with this is I know you say here you can split it by children, so
Yes.
the age and stuff. That's never worked for us, and we've obviously done something wrong.
It's a bit awkward. It's a case of, I think, to be honest, I'd have to be doing it.
Yeah.
I was going to say, can I get some
yes.
copies?
So if you drop us an email, the usual place, and I'll come back to you. And
Thank
just
you.
walk.
That would
It
be
does
good.
work.
Yeah, I figured it. I knew it would be
But
totally user error.
it was very difficult for us to actually put it together as a sort of, how do we get people to do this in that
Yeah. And that does rely on the publishers doing it. Publishers have to age range it for it to work. So you get the qualifiers. If it says for 3 years old, for 4 years old, for 5-year-olds, you might want to say you're putting these into preschool, or that's wrong numbers. 5, 6, 7 we would put into 5 to 8. 9, 10, 11 we would put in those, and you can say it goes into those ones. but you still have to have, if there isn't one, where is it going to go? So in our shop, if there isn't an age range, everything ends up in 5 to 8. But that's because the publishers haven't given us, we're relying on the publishers to put that information on the data record. And if they don't, then we just have to do some sense check. When I talked about the red lines that come up on the things, because often that's, I'll make sure to check red ones have the right category.
We were just going to show you a couple of things that you may not be aware of. Sort of little
We
tips.
customer reprinting customer slips. That's always been a pain, because if you don't get them the first time, printer's not working, all that sort of stuff. So it's probably passed a lot of people by, but there is now a button in Goods In that says print slips, and it says for what, so that's a quick reorder from sales. If you leave reorder from sales to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, there is a way of clearing it down. There's a button in reorder from sales which is just clear up, so you can delete,
There's a better way of doing it, that's do your ordering.
Yes, it's recommended that you just do it on a daily basis and keep it to next to nothing. And then finally, I think it's finally.
We've got the next.
Oh yeah, we've got one of the problems we've had over a long time is that emails have been more and more difficult to send from the system via your own email supplier, and that's because I think they're just saying that's got to be spam, we're not going to let you do it. I mean, Google Mail started it, we were able to send via Google Mail and that stopped. So what we use now is, or what option we've got is SendGrid, and that's a method by which you send the email to us and we forward it via SendGrid, and it's pretty bomb-proof then. It takes out your email provider from going, I don't like the look of that. SendGrid is sort of certified as not being spam. So, and that works across the board with both orders, sending invoices, and obviously customer notification.
So we're going to run through some of the new things and things on the wish list. Some of these I think we may have mentioned.
Yeah, we've done printing last receipt, gift receipt, reprinting Z reads.
Yeah, receipt options we've covered already. That's
yes, I think. Create a core stock list from ISBN list.
Yeah.
If you're doing reorder from sales, you might want to go, is that something we should always order regardless? Well, there is a core flag, and to actually add items to the core list was quite difficult because it was a one-by-one option. So now with ISBN lists, you can create a list and say this is core stock. So it's a quick way of going, grabbing everything that you think should be core, scan it into an ISBN list, send to we're one of them. And
You're going to buy one of them.
So anyway, cheap.
Or higher. Are those the ones we hire out? Those?
This is a higher one.
You borrow those.
Oh yes, another one that this final entry, send logs. Did we touch on that one?
We've got another screen on ISBN list, which we sort of touched on. Or an ISBN.
Oh yeah, so obviously I'm not sure who's really up on ISBN lists. When I'm dialing into shops, some shops have loads of ISBN lists, some have none. They're really useful. The way I sort of explain them is if you've got a pile of books in the corner that you want to do something with, generally if you scan them into an ISBN list, you can do what you're trying to with that.
Can you scan from your standard scanner?
Any scanner.
That's very useful to know.
Yeah.
I was hoping that.
As well as the core stock option, we've added send an ISBN list to a category. So that's quite useful if you've got like a partial, like let's say crime, and you think, well, I don't want crime anymore, I just want to put it in fiction. If you scan those into an ISBN list and then say send to fiction, that solves the problem in one pass. And then for advanced users of ISBN lists, something everybody's been asking about is copy and moving contents, and you can do that there. That's quite cool.
I hit a bit of a brick wall in my head about importing files from Excel spreadsheets into this, and I know I've managed to do it once or twice, but now I can't remember.
Excel spreadsheets.
So it's got to be in a CSV.
It's got to be a CSV, and all it is we just need ISBN and quantity. You can have a line reference as well, but ISBN and quantity is the minimum, or ISBN actually, because if there's no quantity, it's going to default to 1. The thing with Excel is you get this problem whereby you save the Excel spreadsheet, and then it transposes the ISBN back into the exponential number, and that's probably
Is
what
that
you're
what it
seeing,
is?
is because you're pulling in this exponential number. So always make sure you just save it as a CSV, never as,
Thank you.
yeah.
Send log was the next one.
Send log, oh yes. This was added in the last version, check data, and this is, if you're at all concerned about, did I send my Edelweiss data, did I send my BookScan data, then in back office system maintenance, you've got this button that just tells you what you've been sending. So if you think, I wonder if we sent out BookScan, you can look at that and it'll tell you last time you sent it.
So that's set up to go automatically, is it? Or do you want
Yes, it's set up to go automatically, but sometimes it's a question of did it or didn't it? Well, that's how to find out.
I whizzed through the reprint Z report one. Do you want to
Yes.
show that?
I don't think there was anything in that.
It was.
That's what we talked about that in the previous.
Yeah,
that was
that's
in the
why I
previous
whizzed
session.
through.
Oh, yeah,
That was-
that's fine.
yeah.
Full stop.
So it was just-
Check data, we've done that. And then future
Future
development.
development, the wish list.
We can't talk about this.
We can't talk about this.
Yeah, we're looking at improving search. That's one thing. We hope at some point in the future, to have a what do they call it? A dashboard. So that's basically a look at your system. How many orders have you got outstanding? How many orders have not been collected? How many have not been sent? You know, all that sort of stuff. The immediate sort of, oh, blimey, we better do that. And that's the whole point of the dashboard. Links from open, this is one would be really, really good. It's end of day, sending your Z-read direct to QuickBooks or Xero. So that's on the cards. We're looking at redoing goods in a bit, just to make it a bit cleaner and seamless, and eventually cloud version, and that is a bit of an eventually.
But in the meantime, people have been very kind about the developments that we've brought in so far.
Yes.
Just a bit of a shout out for Martin, really, because when we first acquired BatchLine, he kept the show on the road. He really did. We didn't know what we'd got, what Fraser had bought, and he was a complete hero. He still is a complete hero. With John Potter in the back room. So. And the last graphic just kind of shows what we're trying to do. We're just trying to link everything, make things easier for you. So linking to payments, to returns, through payments, linking to QuickBooks and Xero, as we said. And you've got all, the extras, what we've talked about before, your dojo and book tokens. It's just trying to make things easier for you, really. And as I say, do send in ideas for developments, because we don't necessarily know unless you tell us. And also the thing is, if we don't hear from you, we assume everything's okay. And if it's not okay, let us know and then we can sort it out.
Thank you.
And if you need to contact us, I think you know where we are.
Any questions on anything that the panel's talked about? Hazel?
I've got two. The first one is the send grid for customer invoices. We send out loads of, by email, we send out loads of customer invoices, and at the minute, because in BatchLine, even if we put the email system in, the email address in, and it says at the end of the process, would you like to email this invoice to the customer, and we say yes, it just says, oh, we're not doing it. So we're creating everything as a PDF and then emailing it to the customer, which is very labour intensive. So how do I use this SendGrid?
SendGrid is pretty easy. It's a very simple screen. If you go into your email settings, at the bottom it'll say somewhere like SMTP. SMTP. Now, if you drop that box, SendGrid is another option. So you select SendGrid, it greys out a lot of the other stuff, and it just says stick your email address in and the reply address, and that's it.
And with the invoices, can you then put, I think you probably can, put a message in? Because what used to happen when the invoices were automatically sent is it would just literally send the invoice attached to an email and just have invoice 1234.
I'm not sure about that one, to be honest. I think it just sends the invoice from your address. that message there is, dear customer, your book's just...
Yeah. Yeah.
How do we get to that screen?
It's, if you go to back office, maintenance, and then system config, and there's a tab that says email.
I've probably got a setup guide somewhere, because that's the thing, we do have
Yeah,
guides for lots of different aspects if you ever need anything.
On our website, on the Batch website, there is quite a lot of documentation, and all of the different releases are all listed. They're not exactly sort of, this is the one with Sengrin in, but if you open them, each of them have got a list of what this update did, so, and that'll be a guide as to how to use it.
Hazel, what was the second question?
Oh, sorry.
It was kind of a key. I love what's happened to BatchLine, and the scan goes in with the Coantec scanners, just fabulous, and the ability to send orders electronically, which we did. I was a BatchLine user for a long time, so that opening up of the platform is brilliant. But at the minute, I'm selling loads of copies of the brand new Wimpy Kid book, and every single receipt that I give to my customer has got gobbledygook on it because of the accents.
Accents.
And I keep raising that, and I'm fed up giving my customers receipts that don't make sense. So I would be for a fix.
Okay. Is it just that title?
No, it's any title at all that has got a foreign accent on it. So
okay.
a football book about Barcelona, Barca, that comes up. I mean, it's several times a day you just see something which just doesn't make sense. And the Wimpy Kid one is a really good example, because if you give that to a customer, they think, what if I just bought? And it's not all right to have rubbish to give to customers.
Yeah. You can change the stock record and just rename it yourself.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I don't know, change the stock record, you could call it Joe Blogs, you can call the book whatever you want.
Well, that's a thought, but that's a manual intervention.
It is a manual intervention.
On what should be.
It's a short-term fix.
It's a good short-term fix.
Thank you.
I'll thought of that. Thank you very much.
Sarah, did you have a question?
Yeah, when you have the ability to process invoices manually. So, for example, when we do Gardener's Home Delivery, when we collect all the invoices in from Batch, they all then appear in our drop-down Gardeners. And then in order for them to not sit and clog up the system, we have to process those invoices so they kind of get removed. Or delete them. Yeah. I was just wondering if there's a way to do, because we've got, from legacy stage, we've got a whole load of unprocessed invoices.
Yeah,
is there a way to do like a bulk process?
Not easy for you, but I can do it twice.
Oh, brilliant. So if I turn around to you, it's like, I want these ones all to go.
Yeah.
Cool.
Do you need them in a particular format, Martin?
No, because all I'll do is I'll just flag invoices as processed, even though they're not.
Because we've got some that are like, 2000, like before I had the shop, mostly. So,
Wow.
Yeah, it's just one of those jobs we've never got around to doing. But now, because of that, we've got a lot of noise in that drop down, and it just means that it's not so easy for us to actually spot which of the invoices are new and which have come in. And
so if you stick that on the one about what was the
other thing I was going to email you about?
Oh, it was the categorisation.
Thank you.
And so I'm just conscious because at 1:15 the next one starts, so we need a few minutes to change everybody around. And Michael, you need to get across to your Skills Lab, I think, don't you?
Oh yeah.
Are you in here?
I need to do one as well.
Are there any final questions, general questions around any of the stuff we talked about? We're all downstairs anyway. Sam's down there manning the standards list, but we'll all be down there a little bit later on if you've got any other questions. But fabulous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.